So welcome everybody. This is the SWOT analysis presentation for the Waterloo Wellington First LEGU Challenge competition. So this is Barb. Barb is from Team Dave, and she's going to talk to us today about SWOT analysis.
Yes, so this is series 2. So this is the second part of a 4-part series about marketing basics. We will also be touching upon branding and public relations because we didn't have time to touch on that last week. So what is SWOT? So SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So it's used to identify the situation around your business. And it's very important whenever you're just thinking about anything. And when used for FRC purposes, you can use it when you're planning for your chairmen. So previously what Team Day would do is we would do a SWOT analysis at the beginning of each of our seasons and just look at who our competitor, who you're going up against for the robot or even for chairmen, just to see what we want to focus on, what we really want to highlight to stand out during those presentations. It's also very important if you're doing the entrepreneurship award, as it is one of the things you do have to submit. So it's also great in everyday life. So we're just going to head into each thing. So strengths. So strengths looks at your internal situations. So you want to think about the following. You want to think about your advantages. You want to think about any unique and low-cost resources you have, and any factors that mean you get the sale, essentially if you're thinking at it from the business sense. But what does that mean for FRC? So what are your strengths within your team? So your strengths, your advantages are the students that you get. So if you're a community team, you don't have to worry about school boards. You don't have to worry about anything like that. But if you're a school team, you have your advantages, the students that you have in the school, and you can just start your meetings right after school, and those kids are already there. As well, you have access to shops. And then also your sponsors are your strengths. So that is an internal situation. So the connections you have with those personal sponsors, so those parents that bring in their companies and all that fun stuff. So it's just looking at what's internal about all that fun stuff. And then weaknesses. So again, this is also an internal situation. So you want to look from within. So here are your disadvantages and your limitations. So what you could improve on and the factors that mean you would lose the sale. So within FRC, again, the weakness, so a strength we have is that you could be a school team. You have access to meet right after school, but at the same time, that is also a weakness because you're limited on time. You're limited to the access you have for the school. If, for example, it's like going back to 2020 when we had the, and 2013 actually, there was teacher strikes. So this is a time that you couldn't be in the school working on your robot because no students were allowed in. So that is a limitation. Another thing you can improve on. So one example for Team Dave is that during the seasons, like we have a sheet metal sponsor. So if we don't get it out in time, the sheet metal could be coming in late. And that means we have less time to actually manufacture and assemble that robot, which is a weakness. So improving on that is just making sure you have that set deadline, you're getting it out, so you have as much time as possible. Another thing is, so your opportunities. So these are your external situations. So you want to think about your chances to improve performance. You want to think about the good opportunities that you can spot. So the opportunities that you can have within FIRST are having a lot of local businesses around here. That's an opportunity for you to get more sponsors. WWFIRST is a great opportunity for any FRC team because it's a collective of all teams. So you are able to get information and that knowledge from other mentors to your own students. So it's that cross team working together, which is an amazing opportunity. And then there's also the competitions. You can look at when you're selecting your competitions for the robot, you can look at opportunities. So you always want to choose your home one. So it's Waterloo. That's just opportunity for your families to be there and all that stuff. But when choosing your second one, at least the way Team Dave does it, is we look at who potentially could be attending. Is it very concentrated competition, like a lot of good teams, or is it like nicely evened out, where you could just have a chance to play well and not have to worry about all that robot breaking and all that fun stuff. Not very fun, to be honest. And then the last one is threats. So it's your external situations. So it's external trouble for the business. It's obstacles that you face. It's what your competitors are doing. So it's really hard to navigate the threats for an FRC team because it depends, but your competitors could be other teams. So it could be teams like Sims, OP, teams that you frequently see at competitions that are known for doing well. So they are technically a threat. You have to just be ready for, analyze, get ready for. In the aspect of chairmans, it's teams that, again, are known for being that big chairman's team and just making sure that you are setting yourself apart. So you're taking what you have that's unique and showing that instead of just doing the same as everybody else. And the biggest obstacle that really happened is the pandemic. That is the huge obstacle. So it affected the way that a lot of teams run. Not every team can do online meetings. Not every team did start out with online meetings. We can't all do the at-home challenges. Not every team did also register. So these are all very important. So I'm actually just going to go back for a second, just to the general SWOT and talk about this a little bit more. Okay, so SWOT analysis is very important because you want to use this when making any big decision. So when going forth with any sort of marketing aspect, you want to analyze how someone else has done it and see what worked for them and what didn't work for them and how that can work for you. So I'm going to use the example of the summer challenge that Team Dave did. So we had our summer contest last year. So our strength was that we had a good social media base. We had good ideas. We had great levels. We had it all planned out. But then our weakness was that we didn't really market it as well as we could have. This was the first time doing it. So it was a lot of big firsts for us. So we didn't really know how to adjust if something did go wrong or anything like that. So one of the big issues we had is we didn't have as many submissions as we would have liked. So that was a big weakness for us, is that it was the first time and we didn't reach out to anybody that had done it before. An opportunity though was taking a chance to reach out to our friends and being like, hey, can you do this? Or even just in general, having the opportunity to present a contest like this to see how it would run. And then the threat, not saying that this is technically a threat in a bad way, but at the same time, 2702 was running a similar game design challenge. So would this be taking away from our audience to have, like, would they want to do theirs versus ours, or would they just choose both? So it's not necessarily a threat in that, like, we're like, oh my goodness, no, but it's just something you have to think about, because having two similar things going on at the same time could be affecting, could not, you never really know. So a big SWOT analysis for that is just using it for any sort of thing, any sort of marketing concepts. Do you guys have any questions at all? Again, if you have any questions about SWOT or anything I'm saying, just pop it in the chat and I will read them out. But now I'm going to get into a little bit of what we missed last week. So one thing we didn't talk about is branding. So what makes a product? What is your team brand? So Team Dave is known for being green. We have our green, but it took us a lot of time to get to that brand. Our brand is also just having the Dave out there. So we recently changed it over. So it used to just be Team Dave. Dave looked like a regular name, but now it is all caps because the Dave logo is actually a working circuit. So it is a light that shines out through the little arrow. So we now have that reflected in our team name so we can see the brand. The big thing about branding is you want it to be easy to spot. So with Starbucks, everybody knows Starbucks has Frappuccino, Starbucks has the cold brews, it's the mermaid, they have a set brand, and so does Nike. Everyone can, or honestly, I don't know if that's Nike or Adidas. Right now I'm kind of blanking, but everyone knows that check mark. Everyone knows that that is what you're wearing. So it's taking the chance to figure out, like, make a name for yourself and make sure that that's what you're known for. The big thing you want to be careful when you're working with branding, so what makes your team brand, is you want to make sure you stand out and you don't fit in. So working with within your team, you can change things up, but also making sure that you're not copying from someone else's brand, so you're not having any issues there. And then you're not seen as just another team. That makes sense. Big thing with brand also is it is the way you will shape anything you present. So any sort of marketing concepts you work with, you want it to be within your brand. So a lot of teams nowadays do have that branding standard. They have that branding ID. So it's the fonts they use, it's everything like that. It's just one way that you keep it standardized and you keep it looking professional. And it's very important to have a very good brand. And then finally, the one thing I didn't talk about as much was the public relations. So PR is a thing that maintains your relationship with the public. So why is it good? So it reaches many people, it is credible. Or con is it is an ethics concern. So when you have PR, so it's the professional maintenance of a favorable public image by company or organization. So in this case, it's your team. So it's anything about like not only what you post and what you put out to the public, but it's also what other people say about you. So it's what people are tweeting about you. It's what people are posting about us. So there are a couple of multiple ways to do this. So there's your sponsor relations is a form of public relations within teams. So it's the way you write your sponsor recaps, it's the sponsor emails. So you can see here we have a photo of like a big thank you to our sponsors. So that's a way of public relations because it's us keeping in contact and making sure that they know we have a good image. We also want to purvey that out there. And then also damage control. So I don't know how long anybody has been in the program, but in 2019, Team Dave became, no, it was 2018, sorry. Team Dave declined Act McMaster with one of our track coaches yelling no. It wasn't a good look for us because it was just a huge misunderstanding and it didn't necessarily purvey the image that we wanted to, that we like the great professionalism, cooperation, all that fun stuff. So it's us, so when we posted about it this year, what's your most humbling experience? It's us promoting again, just addressing the fact that we know this happened. We know we made, it didn't make us look good, but we are accepting that it happened and it's something that we just take in and just move on. So PR is great and it's amazing because when it's other people praising us, it's more credible than just us talking about how well we are doing and all that stuff. The downside of it though, is that sometimes you do have to do that damage control, but sometimes something that you tweet can just be taken out of context completely. And it's just making sure that you're watching out for that, but also what you're saying, what you're putting out there. You don't want to put out misinformation because then your public image isn't that good. And it's just a whole circle of life. And yeah, I actually realized that this one's going to be a heck of a lot faster than they have been in the past. So I don't have anything else to cover, but if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them right now. Yeah, I didn't realize this one would be this short. So yeah, that is it for today's SWOT analysis, branding, and public relations.
Hey, Barb, would you mind doing a quick recap of what you talked about last time, since we've got a little bit extra time?
Yeah, of course.
Got the slideshow.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to take 1 second and open that up. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for one moment. So yeah, so last week we did a little bit more of the basics and fundamentals of this. Let me stop this. Oh goodness. There it is. So yeah, so we talked a little bit more about basics. So this was what marketing is and how it actually does apply to FRC teams. And I've got this right here. This went a lot faster than I thought finding this, which is good. Okay, so it's just loading. So So officially, what is marketing? So it's a set of practices to plan for and present products or services in a way that builds effective customer relationships. So it's how companies do sell you products. So how does it apply to FRC teams? So it's the way we put out our posts on social media. It's the way we put out any sort of posts on Facebook, our website. It's the design challenges we do. It's our sponsors that we bring in. They're all very important from the marketing aspect because it is how we put out our face and how we show off who we are and display who we are. So there are 4 different marketing approaches. So there's product orientation, sales orientation, market orientation, and value-based orientation. So this was discussed a little bit last week, but there was a general consensus that value-based orientation is the way that we connect with, we focus on marketing because it's focusing on establishing value with customers and suppliers. So customers would be the members on your team, the members of others' teams, and your suppliers would be like your sponsors. Because you want to have those long-term valued relationships. You don't want to have like consistently like a whole new batch of kids every year. You want those kids to keep coming back, and you want those sponsors to keep coming back because it shows that you are doing something right, and also shows that someone in the community also cares about what you're doing. So how we do this? So we want to look at the what, the why, the who, the how. So the what is your purpose. So the why is being specific and realistic. So this is in regards to any sort of marketing you're going to come up with. And then you always want to look at the quantitative versus qualitative data. So quantitative is looking at the numbers. So how many people interact with this post? What could be better? And then the qualitative is more like, what do people get from this post? Was it valuable? And then you always want to be smart with anything. So you want to be specific, you want to be measurable, you want achievable, relevant, and time bound. So this is very important when you're looking at any sort of decision or marketing or moving forward. And then we did a quick talk about ethics. So it's the moral principles that govern a person's behavior or conduct activity. So you want to be truthful, you want to be stakeholders. This applies very well with your public relations because you always want to be ethical in anything you put out. In the image you display, you want to be positive, you want to be proper, don't want to show that you're somebody that doesn't go again, or you don't want to be not positive. You always want to have that good image because it is the way that reflects not only on you, but also on the sponsors and also on your team members and everything like that. So anything that your sponsor or that you do affects sponsors, but also that your team does, the students, the mentors, affects how your team is seen. So one example I used last week again is we were on Tesla 2017. We had a team talking really bad about us right behind us because I don't think they realized who they were talking about. And so this was a well-known team. They had a great image. They were known for being one of those people out there, but it was just not looking good on them. So we had like those, like the handful of students that did that, it made me and a couple of others on the team, Dave, just not like that team anymore because of that one experience. So it's very important with your public relations to deal with that as well. And then we talked about EDI. So this is a big thing that FIRST is currently working forward. So it's your equity, diversity, and inclusivity. So the big difference between equity and equality. So equality is, yes, everything is displayed evenly, but equity allows you to understand that you might have something a little bit more so you can share. So the difference between this image, which is a super popular image, is that in equality, everyone has a box, but in equity, the first man realizes he doesn't need a box. So he hands it off to someone who does to help let everyone enjoy the experience. And yeah, and then we talked about the digital marketing mix. So the difference between your earned social media. So it's when other people talk about you, it's those newspaper articles, the paid ones. So it's when you specifically target certain people, and then owned. So what you have access over. So it's your website, your Facebook, your Instagram, and all that fun stuff. And then we talked about the difference of social media. So social network sites, media sharing sites, and then thought sharing sites. So whenever you want to think about doing a post, you want to think about where is this going to get the most information across and what is the best platform for it. Because not everything is necessary for Instagram, but you also don't want to put everything on Twitter either, or Facebook, or your website. You have to pick which mediums work best for the information you're trying to get across. And yes, and then you always want to excite, educate, and experience, and then engage those customers. And yeah, that is a quick review of what we're doing next week.
That was a super quick review. That was awesome.
Yay.
Thanks so much, Barb. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop the live stream. And Peyton, I'm actually going to get you to stay on for just a few seconds, if you don't mind. But thank you very much for this.
Thank you for having me.